Here we are, another Sunday and another edition of the Sports Rush live on YouTube. And of course, you can also find us on Facebook and X. Glad to have you with us on a Sunday evening that feels like a late Sunday afternoon because I don't know if you've adjusted to the time change. I haven't. It's a bit of an adjustment. I woke up this morning and I was awake for a good 2.5 hours before I finally found a clock that was an hour ahead because I had not changed any of the clocks that I have to manually change. And so, hey, I missed an hour today. I don't know about you, but I'm trying to make up for it. And I hope we give you a good hour here on the Sports Rush. Once again, Adam Lundy is going to be joining us in just a couple. So it gives us a chance to make sure you're on YouTube where you can go ahead and subscribe. You can click that thumbs up, give us a like. You can always leave your comments. We've got the comments open and always appreciate Ryan joining us, also Rick joining us, and all the rest of you that have jumped on here at the beginning of the show. Like I said, Adam's going to be coming on because we've got a lot to talk about. We've got to talk about Purdue Fort Wayne women, and we'll even recap what the men did. And it was a bit disappointing. It's a very quick and quiet finish to the season when you go on the road in your first Horizon League tournament game and you get beat. That was the case with the men. But we will talk about what the women did and how well they are playing right now. And of course, if you're ever going to play your best basketball, this is the time of year to do it. Right now, it looks like Maria Marchesano's got her team playing as well as they have all year. But we'll preview what's coming ahead in the next couple of days with the Horizon League Championships down in Indianapolis. We've got plenty of high school basketball talk. Hoosiers and Purdue. Speaking of teams that maybe aren't playing their best basketball in March, what about defense? Maybe somebody needs to bring it up to both of these squads because they didn't play much of it yesterday. Purdue gives up 97 on their home floor at Mackey Arena on Senior Day when they're honoring the careers of Trey Kaufman-Wren, Fletcher Lawyer, and Braden Smith. I mean, has there been a trio, and there probably will never be a trio like them, that comes in as a freshman class, that goes through a program start to finish, graduates, and has their senior day together. I mean, that's pretty special. And Purdue had that, and then they blew the game against Wisconsin. So Purdue sees their seeding slide a bit. They're going to have to play an extra day than what they maybe could have played down in or at Chicago for the Big Ten tournament. But anyway, we're glad to have you on board, and I've got to talk a little bit about the Miami Redhawks. They finished the deal Friday night. It was one heck of a basketball game. I don't know if you had a chance to see this on Friday night. It was a late game, so I had a chance to catch the last few minutes of it and the overtime. What a battle between Ohio and Miami. And man, I'll tell you what, with the the impact of having the undefeated season, all the pressure seemed to be on Miami, but they just kept coming up with play after play when it looked like they had their backs against the wall. Got to give them a lot of credit. Travis Steele and his coaching staff, the way they had their players prepared, the confidence that they had, they played with a swagger where they believed they were going to win every game, and then they did win every game. 31-0. And, a lot has been made about the competition. Let me just say, it would have been nice to see what they would have done if they'd have played some power conference teams. But that's all about scheduling, and scheduling right now for mid-majors is very difficult, especially if you're considered one of the better mid-majors, but not the best of the mid-majors, but you're in that pack of good mid-majors that have the potential to go into somebody else's arena, get a check, and beat them. No one wants to be part of a John Rothstein tweet that says the epitome of brutality, because that goes out every time somebody collects a check and wins the game in a power conference team's arena. And so these power programs, they don't want to schedule those teams that are in that mid-pack, that 150 or so, or 200 in the KenPom rankings or the net rankings. They don't want those kind of teams. because there's too much risk for what you gain by winning that game. And so what they want is, if they're going to schedule a non-con game, they want to have somebody they can really beat up on and play everybody that's dressed. And so they want to find the very bottom of the bottom. And that's why you see some of these schools that have the opportunity to schedule 10 or 11 bye games in November and December. Man, they collect a lot of money for their program. They're also one of the 350 to 360 in the net rankings, which is right near the bottom. Easy for them to get the games. They want to go out and play a bye game every 3 or 4 days. They probably got a team willing to sign them up because they want those types of bottom feeders. But the teams that are respectable mid-majors that have the potential to go into a building and beat you, it's very hard to get them to agree to play. And somebody looked at Miami and thought, well, we'd rather play South Mississippi Valley State. And so, and I'm making them up because I don't want to disrespect anybody in particular. So just randomly throwing out a team name that you could think would be one of the bottom teams in Division I basketball. But the truth is, Miami had a tough time scheduling. Couldn't get the power programs on their schedule. They scheduled as many good mid-majors as they could, and it turned out most of the ones they scheduled were not that good. And so they end up with one of the softest non-conference schedules in the country. Then they play in the MAC, which they don't have much control over that. The MAC is not necessarily one of the big conferences or power conferences in basketball. And so that's kind of a middle-of-the-pack conference. Maybe slightly above middle of the pack, but it's not a great basketball conference. It's probably pretty consistent in basketball with what you have in the Horizon League. The only big difference between the Horizon League and the MAC is that you've got the MAC has football and the Horizon League does not. So anyway, Miami ends up with a schedule that they put together, and of course it gets critiqued and criticized. It reminds me a lot of the Indiana Hoosiers from a year ago, not this past season, but the year before, when Indiana did schedule kind of soft. Why? Because most of that schedule was put together under Tom Allen, and he desperately needed to add some wins because he knew he was on a warm seat, maybe even a hot seat. And so he went out, found as many soft teams as he could play. And then the Big Ten schedule, which you really don't have control over, turned out to be very favorable for Indiana. And in hindsight, some of the teams you thought might be pretty respectable ended up not being so much. Indiana ended up with a somewhat soft schedule, but it's what you do with that schedule. There's a lot of teams around the country that had a favorable schedule. And I'm not going to say they didn't play power conference teams, but there's a lot of teams that if you take out the power conference games, how many of them went undefeated against mid-major competition? I don't know if you would find one other than Miami. If you just, and maybe it's 25 or 26 games that you're looking at against Division I competition. How many teams in the country went 25, 26 games just against the mid-majors and were undefeated against them? Their only losses they had were against power conference teams. That's why we need to appreciate and respect what Miami has done, because teams just do not do this. When you play in a conference, it is very challenging when these teams have established some rivalries and when these teams know you inside and out. It is very challenging to be able to go undefeated in league play. I mean, how many conferences around the country, how many of those teams around the country go through a conference schedule undefeated, let alone their entire season? Hold on, I gotta let Adam know. Adam's having trouble getting in. I think I got him now. Sitting here trying to make sure the other half of this little tandem here makes it onto the show. So, okay, you finally found the email, huh? I did send it to you.
I used an old one. I used an old one and just found the link that way. So I don't know what's going on with the email, but
It said it sent. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. We're here
Um,
now.
but you're here. All right. Welcome. I'm talking about Miami. Since I know you don't have a whole lot to add, I'm the Miami guy. I like to talk about Miami. I followed Miami Friday night, but the point is, I'm talking mid-major scheduling and the difficulty of it, and the fact that we should not downplay what Miami accomplished going undefeated just because they didn't have the 3 or 4 bye games in there. Because, as I just said, look around the country, find any other mid major in the entire country, and you're talking about a couple hundred teams. I challenge you to find one that only lost to power conference teams, but were undefeated when they played mid majors. Because that's essentially what Miami did, and they had to do it 31 times. And so give credit to Miami, much respect. Now, let's talk about what happened after the game.
Yeah, I saw you went to.
Normally when I tweet something out, random thoughts, right?
Yeah,
Normally when I tweet something out, I get 400 or 500 views on it. It goes through the cycle and then it dies. Pretty standard stuff for X, right? Well, this thing I put out on Saturday morning, my thoughts about what I saw at the end of that Miami game. I was tired Friday night, but on Saturday I woke up and thought, I really don't like it all that well. And so I tweeted, and I thought it wasn't that big a deal. Just, my opinion, what I thought about it. If I'm associated with Miami, I'm disappointed. I was pulling for Miami. I wanted to see them go unbeaten. I liked their ball club. I liked the way they played. And I think when we are a fan of someone, we want them to behave the way we want them to behave. Miami didn't. And I'm going to explain a few things about this. So I got on Twitter, posted what I thought was a fairly innocent tweet. Got to find it.
yeah. No, I saw this went pretty darn viral as far as
I don't know what the standard is for viral.
I mean, as far as like our average tweets, like yours, like you said, maybe like 5, 10 likes, a
Yeah, I
couple
mean,
couple responses.
I don't know if that many people even like it, but at least a number of people that watch it.
Yeah, yeah.
But so Saturday morning, I put out, here it is. I put out a tweet. I was really pulling for Miami to finish perfection. When I saw how they acted after winning, I wish they'd have lost. Such a memorable moment, embarrassed by a single digit displayed by players and student managers. They were a team winning America's heart, and they ruined it. Now, I don't mean that they maybe completely ruined it. I think there's still people that feel it was special to see what they did. But my personal feelings are character matters. And they were in a hostile environment. And most of the Yahoos that responded were trying to defend what Miami did based on how Ohio's student section acted. There's a big difference between the student section and being one of the players in the game. It's much like the customer versus the McDonald's employee. The customer can come in and act like a jerk, like a blank blank hole. They can be completely wrong and off the rails. But the point is, if you're wearing the company uniform and you've got the company logo, your standard of behavior is much higher than what is expected of that customer. And you're representing your university. You're representing your teammates. You're representing your administration, your coaching staff, and you're representing a fan base. You can't let emotions get the best of you and make a mistake in how you react. You cannot let that happen. Don't sit here and tweet to me and tell me that I must have never played any kind of sports growing up, or I'd understand. No, I played sports. And for you fools that have said to me, obviously never played college sports. And then they actually said, I've never been 18 to 22 years old. Uh, they're right. I'll get there someday. I've actually been there twice, almost three times. But the point is, I played sports, right? And
Yes.
sports is about character. In a situation like this, um, it's one of those character building moments where you take the abuse, you take whether they were throwing insults, whether they were saying bad language, and somebody said, well, they threw stuff at them. Okay, that's a matter to take care of with their administration and with the league. It's not for the players to jump off the bench moments after completing an undefeated season and walk to the opposing student section and flip the bird. Okay. I don't like that. And I don't think that's great sportsmanship. And it's not a sign of great character. And as someone who has embraced this team, it's like finding out your girlfriend's on OnlyFans. You might really love her and she's in your arms and you're hugging her. And then somebody comes by and says, hey, I subscribed. And you look at her and you're thinking, what are they talking about? And, I mean, all of a sudden now something about them and it might make you feel different. I know something about Miami and it makes me feel different. It's like I had just subscribed. I had just bought into Miami. And all of a sudden I found out they're not really what I think they are. And so I was disappointed. Was it a mistake? Yes. Was it something where I'm crucifying the player, calling him out? I didn't even post the picture. Why? Because I understand there's a certain age, 18 to 22, kids make mistakes. But it was a mistake that I thought shouldn't have happened. I don't think that's an unfair judgment. But that tweet, I don't know where it caught fire, but after the first 3 or 4 hours, I had about 600 to 800 views. Then all of a sudden I looked down and I had like 1,500. And I'm like, wow, it like doubled. And then like an hour later, I've got like 4,000. And then an hour later, I've got like 15,000. It now has 46,000 views on that one tweet. I'm like,
Yeah.
really?
It must have reached, Miami of Ohio Twitter,
It
college
the
basketball Twitter as a whole. But
the X algorithm decided they liked that one and they were going to send it. Those when you get the page that says for you, they must have decided a lot of college basketball fans wanted to see this because of the reaction I got. So I'll take it. 48,000 or 46,000 views, 141 comments, 33 retweets, 275 likes, and 5 pennants that I don't even know what those are.
I believe
I've never had one before. The little pennant symbol.
Those are bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Okay, I got 5 bookmarks. That means somebody's going to come after me later.
Yep, they're remembering it for later. They're
using
it as
they're
fuel.
saving that one.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. I don't think they should have done that. I guess I would just say I'm a little bit more lenient than you are, probably just being a little bit younger, a little bit more carefree. Like I said, like I totally agree that they shouldn't have done it, but am I completely out on the program and their Cinderella story just because it happened? That's going to be a no for me. I'm still riding for them. I still hope they do well and get into the tournament.
I mean, I'm still pulling for them.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed. That's my team. And it's like now publicly, do I want to say I believe in that? Because I think if you publicly say you're pulling for them, then it's somewhat of an endorsement. You believe in everything they're doing.
Right.
And, if it's full disclosure, I'd say, yeah, I'd still like to see them represent the mid majors.
It's like being like a disappointed dad. It's like, I still like you. I still care about you.
Yeah.
I just expect better of you.
I don't love you anymore, but I like you still.
I just expect better of you. It's because I have these high expectations that I expect more of you.
I'm kind of fond of you. I'll, I'll still be coming to your wedding.
If there's an open bar.
But how about that game? That was a crazy game. That was unbelievable. And so, give them credit. Now, they're going into the MAC tournament. Now they've probably got the whole crowd against them. But I don't think they win the tournament.
It'll be tough. I mean, you'll have to see all these teams, or not all these teams, but teams you've played before again. And Akron's a good team if they run into Akron in the championship.
That's the team, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone else can beat them, but I think Akron can.
Let's see.
And remember, the last 3 games of Miami's season, they won by 2, they won by 2, and they won by 2 in overtime. So they're playing with fire, man. It's like they got through it.
Yeah.
But I also think they probably feel some pressure is off. And I don't know if they'll have the same edge that they had when they were trying to protect the undefeated season. We'll see.
Yeah, you'd hope they'd want to leave, zero doubt in the committee's mind and just go ahead and win the MAC tournament. So I don't think they want to leave it up to just an at-large decision, but so I think that's
they got to be in.
There.
Did you see what happened yesterday?
What happened?
The 9 teams that were the ones, the last ones in and the next one's out. 9 teams all played yesterday and all 9 lost.
Yeah, and that was so bad. And I actually saw that even though Indiana lost, they still got slightly a higher spot just because of all of the other bubbles were like even closer, even more impactful losses. Yeah. There you go.
So the other bubble teams had worse losses than Indiana, and Indiana's wasn't a great loss.
No. That one kind of showed why Ohio State should be in.
But Ohio State's going to be a tournament team.
Yeah, no question now.
But I think with all that happened yesterday, I think that's got to help a team like Miami. I mean, if all 9 teams were winning and all of a sudden the bubble was tightening up, I'd say, yeah, they got to. I think Miami's in. I don't think you can deny a team that goes through a season undefeated. Again, how many times has it happened? And even with mid-majors, how many times has a mid-major gone through a season undefeated? I wouldn't even talk about this year. I'll talk about any time.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, if you got it on record, somebody let me know who it is. I would love to know. You can add it in the comments. But that's my question. Does anybody remember a mid-major that if you took the power conference teams off their schedule and looked at the remaining games against mid-major opponents, any mid-major that went undefeated? That's the question. Ryan, he's wanting to jump in, I think, on Indiana, talking about work to do in Chicago. We'll talk about Indiana. But right now, I got to talk about Purdue Fort Wayne. And again, Maria Marchesano. I'll tell you what, if you are a good-sized program that has a coach's opening, do not watch this podcast. Nothing to see here.
No.
Nothing to see. Just turn off the podcast and move on. We've got nothing going on here. Nothing with a really good coach that's we're fortunate to have. So if you're an administrator, athletic director, or anything at a power conference team, and you're replacing your coach and you're trying to kind of nose around, nothing here. Just move on.
Nothing.
What an unbelievable job she has done. Today, Purdue Fort Wayne goes to Indianapolis to take on the hometown team, IU Indy, in the Horizon League tournament. This is the stupidest game that you could ever put into a bracket. It's an extra game to decide who the 4th team is that makes the semifinals. And Purdue Fort Wayne beats IU Indy 85-49, a 36-point win over a team that just had an upset win on the road at Northern Kentucky. Came back and some people say, oh, but they got to play at home. Well, it's not home anymore. In fact, the women's program never played there, but the men's program at one time did at Corteva Coliseum. on the state fairgrounds. But Purdue Fort Wayne, unbelievable performance. The numbers were incredible. And you look at what Maria Marquesano's done in building this program. We all know about winning one game the year before she showed up. And then the first year she was here, 9-21. Doesn't sound great, but that's major improvement from where they were before she arrived. The next season, her second year, she was 14-19, still under 500. But by the end of the season, they were a pretty formidable team. In fact, they made the semifinals in the Horizon League, went to Indianapolis, and lost in the semifinals to Green Bay. Year 3 comes back, goes 23-13. Again, a loss in the semifinals to Green Bay, and that's a recurring theme with this program. They end up making a WNIT appearance where they actually win a couple of games, make a Super 16, and the following year, which would be her 4th season, she goes 27-9, sets a school record for victories, ends up second place in the Horizon League, and had a loss in the championship game to Green Bay.
Those Phoenix, man.
They are the kryptonite in the postseason. Also appeared in the WNIT for a second consecutive season, won 2 games, including beating Butler, and ends up in the Great 8 before a disappointing loss to Cleveland State. Then this year, they start the season 4-4, completely new roster. 20-12 so far this year. Today was their 20th victory of the season, which makes it 3 straight years with 20-plus wins. It's their 4th year. They've made it to the conference semifinals, 4th year in a row. And to put that into perspective of how difficult that is, the men made it, 2023? And so it's hard. 1 year out of the last 6 years. And so it's hard to get into that Final Four, but they do it year after year after year, and they're in the Final Four again. And who do they have in the semifinals? Green Bay. Is this the year that they get over the schneid and they beat the Green Bay Phoenix in the Horizon League tournament? I saw somebody tweet earlier about how Green Bay is going to be really angry because the Mastodons beat them in the last game of the regular season. My reply was, that makes a statement, but I think when you get into the tournament, teams kind of move on from that. The game didn't really hurt Green Bay, so it's not like they moped over it and it cost them a number 1 seed, or, it meant nothing other than pride, right? The game that means something is the one that you play in the tournament. That game at the end of the regular season, Green Bay already locked up the number 1 seed. The Mastodons were still trying to protect their seeding position. And so the Mastodons had a lot more to play for. Plus, you always want to beat Green Bay because they're the ones that are the benchmark in the league. And so the Mastodons got that win after a big road win at Milwaukee. They come home, they knock off Green Bay, go into the tournament with some momentum, and now they've played 2 tournament games. They've won those 2 tournament games by 30 points over Robert Morris, by 36 points over IU Indy. They have shot the ball 54% from the field combined in the 2 games, and 44% from behind the 3-point line. They've been terrific. Today, they were 34 of 56 from the field, which is real close to 60%. They were 7 of 15 from behind the 3-point line, just a tad under 50%. So this is a team that's playing its best basketball once again. This team, by the way, think about this, Adam. Do you know how many players are on the team right now on the roster that were on the roster 2 years ago?
2 years ago. Oh man, I would say
not last year.
Yeah,
2 years ago.
I'm gonna take 3 or under. I want to say 2, but I know it's not a lot.
Well, give me an answer and
Let
stick
me
with
do.
it.
I'll do
You
2.
want to say 2. Does that mean you're saying 2?
I'll do 2.
You're too high.
Ah, man, I knew it was going to be like either nothing or 2 or something low.
0. They do
Yeah.
not have a player that was on the roster 2 years ago. So this isn't just riding with a core group. This and maybe replacing a player each year. This is a whole new roster that's evolved over the last 2 years. And here they are in the same position. That's success, especially when you're not the one with the biggest bag of cash to go out and bring in players. In fact, I don't even know if they have a bank account. That's the amazing thing is she's gone out and gotten players from the NAIA. She's gotten players that are in their 6th year of eligibility. There's 4 freshmen. I mean, she's had to put together a roster and figure out the best way to get talent and then coach that talent and build them to where they're playing their best basketball at the end of the year, and they have done it. And couldn't be happier for Purdue Fort Wayne women. They are playing Green Bay tomorrow at noon. Everybody take an extended lunch. We need to figure out where to meet to see the game, but it's a big one tomorrow down in Indianapolis.
Absolutely huge, and like you said, you've Maria Marcassano has the Dons winning at the right time. They've shown so far in the postseason that they deserve to be in the semifinals. Playing game be damned. I mean, we don't need that. This is a team that deserves to be at least in the semifinals and deserves this matchup that they have tomorrow against the Green Bay Phoenix. Thanks to an incredible coaching job by Maria Marcassano, and like you said, just the way that things started off a little rocky to start the season, with the new
Well,
team,
they
the new
did get the win
roster.
over Purdue.
That is huge too. That's huge too. So I mean, that's another statement win there with a new roster. So great coaching job by Maria Marcassano.
And she plays 4 freshmen,
Hmm.
3 of them in the regular rotation, 1 of them in the starting lineup, and that's a novelty. I mean, nobody plays freshmen. You might have 1 or 2, but you don't have a lot of teams that play a lot of freshmen. But in mid majors now, especially in women's basketball, you're having to fill roster spots with freshmen. They haven't gone through their free agency. They're on their rookie contract. No, Ryan, no radio coverage. I will be watching just like you. So, anyway, but a big win for Purdue Fort Wayne women. The men, disappointing loss, 3rd time to Green Bay. Green Bay got their butt kicked today by Northern Kentucky. Do you know how painful it is to watch Northern Kentucky score 90 plus against against Green Bay when the Mastodons barely got that many points in 2 of the games against Green Bay? I don't know what it is. It's a matchup, something that they do defensively that works against what the Dons do offensively, or personnel matchups. But it was the strangest thing to see the Mastodons score 50 something 4 times this year. The Mastodons were held under 60 points. 3 of those 4 times were the 3 meetings against Green Bay. The Dons just could not have their regular offense. They couldn't score their regular amount of points. And they actually, I thought, played a pretty good game against Green Bay up there. It was a 2-point game with like a minute left. Ended up losing by 8 because you give up, the lead goes to 4, then you miss a 3, they rebound, you foul, and next thing you know, it ends up being an 8-point game. And there's a lot of people that bet the sports books that weren't too happy on a 5.5 or 6.5 point line. But I mean, I thought they did things much better. They seemed to be more prepared on how they were attacking the Green Bay defense. They used their inside presence with D'Lo, but they just didn't hit shots. They got shots they needed to hit, and they missed them. And the one thing the coach can do is draw up a perfect play. But if a player doesn't hit a shot, does anybody notice? And that's what was happening. The Dons executed certain things offensively to create the shot they wanted. They just didn't make it. So I think it's a little bit of a learning curve because I think this roster needs to be assembled a little bit differently. I think it will be assembled a little bit differently. And we already know that one of the key players from this year's team is entering the transfer portal. DeAndre Craig's announced that he is going to enter the portal. Have not heard word on CJ Hadnot. He's been such a loyal guy for 3 years, very committed to the program, great relationship, the family and the coach very much on the same page. But there's going to be money involved.
That's the name of the game now.
It's not just a decision. Do you want to go to school at the Power Conference school or do you want to go to school at Purdue Fort Wayne? Now it's about, do you want to go to that school, maybe not play as much or get as good an opportunity to showcase all of your skills? I mean, look at the guys that left last year. Jalen Jackson got hurt after a very average beginning at Butler. He ended up not playing the rest of the season. Eric Mulder went to Iowa State, got a couple of spot minutes early, and then pretty much was super glued to the pine for the rest of the year. He just has not been in there. So, it isn't, you get the check, but you wonder in the long run when you look back on your college career and that's the way you end it, is it worth it? And for a guy like Hadnot, he's going to have a chance to be kind of along the lines of what John Conchar did. He's going to have a little more openness. He's going to have more flexibility with where he plays and how he plays. Going into this season, all we knew was he was going to have an expanded role. He was the sixth man a year ago. So there was no way you build your entire offense around a guy that goes from sixth man to starter, and you're not sure what you're going to get from him, even though he's been told he has to play a bigger role. Well, now you know what he's capable of. Now you can build an offense around a CJ Hadnot. No power conference team is going to do that. So we'll see. But DeAndre Craig has announced he is going to transfer. And again, I don't get too worked up over these things. I get disappointed, but not worked up because you realize for everyone that leaves, there's another one who is seeking. And you've just got to be able to connect the dots and hopefully get a better return for what you're losing. And that's going to be the goal of the coaches and the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons, is to improve this roster. I think they need bigger guards. I've said that for a while. I've said, where you win in the mid majors is the 6'5", 6'6" guys. Those flex guys that can play the wing, they can play a power forward, they can even maybe match up and guard a center if they have to. Or if another team downsizes, you can keep them on the floor. 3 guards, a 3-point shooter in the corner, and a 6'9" big just doesn't seem to complement. It hasn't worked. So I think you've got to be able to find a couple 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" guys that you can bring in. And, of course, everybody who comes has to be able to shoot first. So get some shooters, get some athletes, get some guys that are ready to play. But maybe, you get 3 guys that are 6'1", you get a couple of guys 6'3", you get 2 or 3 guys that are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and see where you go from there. But the Mastodons are going to rebuild a decent amount of their roster.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, is you're going to be in a lot higher competition for those taller guards because they get a lot more looks from the power programs. I mean, if you're 6'4", 6'5", and able to play as a point guard as a one position on a roster, you're going to get a lot more looks, and you're going to need a little bit of monetary incentive to get some of those guys.
But that's where, number one, the community supporting the program will matter, but also what will matter is, can you find that diamond in the rough? You know what Maria Marquesano's done? Gone to NAIA programs and Division II and Division III programs and found players that have been great additions, big impact players. I mean, Alana Nelson spent 4 years at Spring Arbor ends up coming to Purdue Fort Wayne and she's first team all conference. Are those players out there where they're not going to take the leap from NAIA to a power conference program or get the big money thrown at them? But are those players out there that are underplaying their talent by being in the NAIA? I think there are some out there. Can you get them to come here, and can you find them? And I mean, again, they've got to be in the portal, so they've got to make the decision to put their name out there. But but that's, like I said, yes, Ryan, the season is over. Disappointingly, it ended Tuesday, it was Tuesday, because the Dons even had to play a day before everybody else. So
yeah,
they got a head start on their offseason recruiting. But tomorrow, women in Indy, Green Bay, 12 noon.
Support them.
All right, Purdue Boilermakers lose on senior day.
Man, they couldn't guard Wisconsin. The guards were having their way with them, shooting threes like it was nobody's business.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know, man. It's
97
looking scary.
points at Mackey Arena. And they kept giving them chances, and then they gave it right back. They couldn't put Wisconsin away. And Purdue has had some defensive issues. And I don't know if it can be fixed now in the short amount of time you've got to fix it, because you aren't going to be doing a lot of practicing, knowing you might have to play 4 games in 4 days if you have any kind of run in the Big Ten tournament. And then, you might have to get on a plane on Tuesday to get to a NCAA tournament site. So there's not a lot of true practice time left to figure out how you make those adjustments. Purdue's just got to be better. And it's a shame to have Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, and Trey Kaufman-Renn, 3 guys that have been in this program from the beginning, that are going out together, not one of them that left to go seek greener pastures. That is unheard of in today's college basketball landscape. It should be applauded, but it also is kind of difficult to really celebrate these 3 when the team isn't playing well right now.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we all had higher expectations than, 13-7 and 6th in the Big Ten, or whatever they are, 6th or 7th in the Big Ten. That is where nobody expected them to be. So, like we've been talking for a good portion of this season now, it's just it feels like they've lost some of the funk. I mean, it's just like you said, they can't defend anybody. They were letting Nick Boyd and the other guard from Wisconsin just get to their spots and shoot half the time yesterday. So it's just a weird look for a Matt Painter led team. And like I said, outside of Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith, I really haven't been impressed with anybody else that he's added to the lineup. So it just feels like a down year. I know that 6th in the Big Ten and still making the NCAA tournament is what a lot of teams would kill for. But for a Purdue team, this is low. This is low on the standard tier.
I just had a thought with Brian's comment. Maria Marchesano is to the Mastodons what Curt Cignetti was to the Indiana football program.
I like it.
Brought them back from the ashes, short of having the $14 million paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. Now Ryan said, obviously Painter's seat isn't hot, but he's not getting fired, but truly wonder if he can win the big games. And I mean, that's been the question about Painter for a long portion of his Purdue career. It's, he can get them to the tournament, but
I mean, they got to the championship, got beat by a really good UConn team.
That's fair. You get to the championship, and that's a big game, and you did lose it, but it is.
And you did have the 2-time player of the year, Zach Edey. Was he 2-time?
There you go. You cut out for just a second there. Time. What was that?
Zach Edey, 2-time player of the year, or 1 time? I don't remember if he got both years.
I'm not sure either, but I mean, he's up there regardless if he won both years. So, I mean, it's so tough with Matt Painter because he is a really good coach, but a lot of times he just leaves you with a little bit of disappointment. I mean, whether it's this year's regular season as of right now or his past tournament runs, it just kind of leaves you like a feeling there should have been more. There should have been better.
Here's my take on IU after yesterday. Disappointing
Hmm.
loss to Ohio State, and it was ugly early on. But the end result, to me, convinces me that Darren DeVries can coach. They were getting blown out, and he did right the ship. He did, you know, help them come back somewhat in that second half. They never really had a chance to win, but I felt like, he was in control of the team. He had command. He got the ship righted when it was off track. I think Darren DeVries can coach. I just think in the short amount of time he had and the number of connections that he might already have with looking for high caliber talent. You talk to different AAU coaches when you're at IU than when you're at Drake. All of a sudden now you're going after totally different guys that are in different levels of AAU programs. And you've got to work those relationships a little bit. And so I felt like the roster he assembled after we got them on the court and got a chance to really see them play, um, he's working hard to get the most out of that lineup. I mean, I think they've got really good high mid major players. I don't know that they've got really good power conference players. They clearly don't have that 5-star stud freshman. They don't have guys that have been there for 2 or 3 years. I think about like Michigan State and what they've got, a core group of guys. There's 2 or 3 guys that have been there, been together. You've got Illinois, who's got the stud freshman. So he's trying to make the most with a lineup that is a 7 on talent. And he's trying to turn them into an 8 as a program. And right now we've seen them be a 5 or a 6. We've seen them be a 7. If they can get a stretch where they're an 8, maybe they can, win a game in the tournament. I don't think they win more than one. If they win one, and that all depends on matchups. But obviously, I don't know that it's been a disappointing year. It's been more of a learning exploration. What do we have? What are we going to have back? Who are we going to need to get? And I think that was kind of expected from Indiana because the program was tanking under Mike Woodson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say I do need to see some good additions in the offseason to the Indiana Hoosiers roster, and I do need to see better results next year because right now they basically have the exact same record as they did last season with Mike Woodson. So like it's a completely different kind of roster, though. It's a completely different kind of team build, and things seem to be trending in a more positive direction. I liked the way that the Hoosiers were playing on the court more this season. I like the schematics more, but just need to see better results, hopefully with a better roster after this offseason.
I'm going to take you back to last April into May. And if you do remember, Adam, there were 2 or 3 power conference guys or guys that we knew were college basketball studs that Indiana was recruiting they didn't get. And those are the guys. Now, the first year you could say, well, it's speed dating and he's just getting into the program. But now, if those guys come and visit IU, you don't want to find out the next day they're going to Kentucky or Louisville.
Or Kansas.
Or Kansas. Yeah.
It's always Kansas, but
But
no.
that's the way it was last year's. They had 2 or 3 chances at some big names, highly sought after transfers, and didn't get them.
And we've seen some of them do, fairly well for their other teams that they end up on, whether it be UConn, Kansas, et cetera, Kentucky, et cetera. So like we said, it just really, you need to knock it out of the park this offseason in the transfer portal.
All right. So got to talk about some high school basketball.
Yes, sir. We had some good
We've
ones.
got some winners and some teams going to the regional. We had choices. This format is so screwy.
Yeah, you don't
Man, I
like it,
miss
do
the
you?
old format. Give me a couple morning games at regional and a night game to decide a champion.
No more.
Not only do I think it's fair for the teams involved, for the fan bases, but I also think the old format is better on media. Why? With only a one game regional, only half the teams are eliminated, which means we might still have a number of Fort Wayne teams that are playing going on to semi state. What happens? They get sent all over northern Indiana to go play their semi state games. And instead of us having one team that's advanced to the one game semi state, or having two teams that have advanced, but they play at the same place back to back games. Because remember, this year's regional used to be the old semi state, where you had two games, might have been a 4A and a 3A. But there were times in the old format where you'd go to a regional, and in the morning session, two Fort Wayne teams would be playing, maybe play each other, maybe they would play opposite games. And one would play at 10, one would play at noon. If they played each other, you knew in advance somebody was going to play at night for a regional championship. So, as a media member that wants to select broadcasts and plan your day, you always knew, almost always knew, on regional Saturday where you were going to go to get the most games, the most coverage, because somebody would be playing at night. And it just was easy to do. And then after regional, because semi-states would combine classes, and you'd have a single semi-state game in 4A, 3A, 2A, and you'd have you might have two Fort Wayne teams that are both playing at Warsaw, for instance. And so you could go to Warsaw and do the two games for semi-state to decide who goes to the state championship. Now you've got these all-day semi-states. And so at regional, we've got all these different locations we've got options of going to. Then at semi-state, we're going to have all these teams still in the tournament and have to decide where do we go and who do we follow. It was just easier and better in the old system. And I don't even hear any buzz or talk about people wanting to bring the old back. By the way, speaking of the old system, I told you this on the broadcast. Oh, my pet peeve.
Oh yeah,
I've got any officials watching. Please, please, I beg you, do not zero out the clock at halftime when there's still 30 seconds to count down. It may not seem important to you, but for those of us broadcasting that have paid rights fees to be there to broadcast, we deserve the amount of respect owed to us to let the clock get to zero so we get back from our commercial break, which are the sponsors that are paying those rights fees that we have to pay to be able to broadcast postseason basketball. And we can play those commercials, and the only way we can time our commercials is based on the clock. So at halftime, they put 10 minutes up, and we have maybe 3 2-minute breaks. So I'll take one right when we get to halftime. That gets us to 8. I'll go a minute and a half or so with some stats or whatever. That gets us down to where the clock gets to around 6. That'll take us down to 4 when it comes back. I'll do some commentary, and I'll take it to 2 minutes. And when it hits 2 minutes, I know go to break, 2 minutes, because if I play 2 minutes of spots, it'll come back right when they're ready to start the second half. And then officials, when teams break the huddle with 30 or 35 seconds, they look over at the scores table like that next 30 seconds doesn't matter to anybody. And they just say, go ahead, set it up, and then they hand the guy the ball to inbound it. They did it to me at Huntington North. And we missed almost 30 seconds of the third quarter of play-by-play because the officials didn't let the clock go all the way to zero. That would never happen in a televised game, and it certainly wouldn't happen if the IHSAA was broadcasting that game. But with us, and that's one reason why it's also nice to be close to the scores table, because you can maybe get their attention instead of being way up in the corner. There are things we can't see, we can't hear, we can't follow when we're up in the corner because we're not seeing the official signal foul calls. We're not and remember, we don't hear PA when we're the play-by-play guy. because we have headphones on and can't hear a lot of what's going on in the crowd. So, if you have a really goofy call or you're not sure who the foul is on, sometimes it's always nice if you can hear the officials give the official foul call to the scorer's table. But it was okay. I had a great view, but there are certain things you miss when you're up there in the corner. But the one thing I couldn't do is go and try to whistle and wave and say, hey, don't forget about me. I've still got 30 seconds of commercials to put that time back on. And yeah, it happened again. Frustrating.
Respect the clock.
Pet
Respect the
peeve.
clock.
All right, so let's talk about what we do have for regionals.
Yes.
Congratulations to all our sectional champs. Homestead survives a difficult schedule or a difficult sectional at Huntington North. And the story here, Homestead, Southside, we knew that would be a battle. Southside missing their top regular season scorer, but they've been without him for about almost a month. And so they've kind of had to adjust without him. But it still would have been a better Southside team if Terrence Jordan would have been on the floor than if he's not. And Homestead gets a 47-41 win in the semifinal. And then the championship, Homestead takes on Wayne, and Wayne doesn't have their leading scorer. Now, take nothing away from Homestead. They earned the win, but it's nice if you could go through a tournament and have every team you play have to sit their leading scorer when they play you. And so Wayne was without Tyree Eldridge, and of course, Wayne really struggled against Homestead. Homestead got 80-48.
Yeah, credit to Wayne for getting the semifinal win over Huntington North without Tyree. But I feel like that after that they were just kind of out of gas as far as, and then going up against a solid team like Homestead, the cards were, they didn't have the draw. They didn't have the draw to take down Homestead. But looking forward to seeing them in regionals, as well as Snyder in 4A and lots of other area teams in other regionals as well.
All right, so the IHSAA at about 11:30 last night released their regional pairings. Some of you might not know who's playing who or where, because as of last night's sportscast, after the sectional games, nobody knew. So here's what we've got for our Fort Wayne area. We're going to have two teams playing at Logansport in one-game regionals. A 3A regional championship game will be played at 1 o'clock between New Haven and West Lafayette. West Lafayette 22-4, New Haven 19-7. That game at 1. And then a 4A regional will be played at 4 p.m. between Lafayette Harrison and Homestead. Harrison 18-8 and Homestead 19-6. So New Haven and Homestead are going to Logansport. Huntington North, they're hosting a regional, and they will host 1A at 4 p.m., and that will involve Canterbury taking on Tri-County. Tri-County 15-10, Canterbury 14-11. That's a 4 o'clock first game. They alternate the times at the different sites. The 2A game will be a 7 p.m. tip between Bishop Luers, 14-11, and Bremen at 22-4. So you've got Canterbury and Luers at Huntington North. Newcastle. I have never been. It is maybe a bucket list item for me to broadcast from Newcastle Gym, which I think it's the largest in America. I know it's the largest in Indiana, almost 10,000 capacity.
It's huge.
Newcastle will be hosting 2 Fort Wayne area schools, and that's where we will be for our broadcasts on Saturday.
Woo!
At 1 o'clock, we've got 15-10 Delta taking on 20-7 Fort Wayne Blackhawk Christian.
Good
4
stuff.
p.m. Snyder in 4A, 19-7, will take on what? Carmel.
Yeah, Carmel coming in hot after taking down number 1 Fishers in the sectionals. So
First
that was
loss of the season.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, Fisher's. I saw this tweet from our good friend James Boyd, who was actually at that game, and he said Fisher's is 83-3 over the last 3 years. Their three losses are by a combined 10 points. They're 54-2 over the last 2 years, but no state titles. Their last two losses have been in the playoffs, each by 1 point. And Carmel has handed Fisher's two of its last three losses.
Well, Carmel is the team, and it might be a break for Snyder, but it's no cakewalk to play Carmel.
No question.
So Snyder 19-7, Carmel 18-5, and we'll be there for the 4 o'clock tip.
That's going to be good. Indy versus Indy
And
area versus
and
Fort
then
Wayne.
Plymouth is going to be hosting Columbia City. That's a 4 o'clock tip on a 3A regional with Columbia City taking on Hanover Central.
Mm-hmm.
Hanover Central, one of those teams that's a game away from being in a semi-state, and they would still have a losing record. So
Yeah,
all they would have to do is knock off Columbia City. And that's again, a team like Hanover Central would have a very difficult time getting through 2 games in one day and appearing in a semi-state. But here, they could be a team that at 13-14 could go to a semi-state. But they're going to play the 1-game regional against Columbia City. Columbia City will be obviously a huge favorite. Hanover Central 12-14, Columbia City 22-4. Northridge is going to take on South Bend St. Joe. That should be a heck of a game in a 4A regional. Northridge is 24-1, South Bend St. Joe 21-4. So there you have it. I think I covered everybody. But I will be at Newcastle.
I will not be, but I'm going to be tuned in listening.
That's right. You won't even be in the studio.
It's a rare
You'll be
occasion.
drinking some umbrella drink.
No, I'll be on my way back from Indianapolis probably, but
Swing by Newcastle.
yeah, why not shoot up there?
Yeah, just swing over to Newcastle. All right, that about does it for us. We got anything else we got to cover?
Let's see. Colts get rid of Zaire Franklin. They traded him to the
I
Packers.
got that on my notes actually. Colts drop Franklin and decide to put some kind of crazy tag on Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that before. Was it an interim tag or something like that? I don't even know. Transition
Hasn't been
tag.
used since Jeff George in like the 1980s.
Yeah, I don't know.
And all it means is that they're tagging him, but he still has the opportunity to shop his services. And if he gets a better offer than the value of the tag, then the Colts have the opportunity to match that offer. Chris Ballard doing Chris Ballard things. He's going to end up losing a pretty valuable wide receiver in Alec Pierce through this whole process.
Yeah, it's not going great with Pierce. We saw that interview with him talking to NFL media saying, I've earned the right to go out and see what I'm worth and see what other teams have to offer. So you never want to hear that.
Making no promises to Indy. I thought maybe his brother signing with Purdue might help. But I think it's going to come down to what type of amounts are out there and what the Colts have told him they're willing to spend. But again, Chris Ballard.
Yeah, I don't know.
Losing the middle linebacker, you get a defensive lineman in return, another defensive lineman. We've been through the circus of defensive linemen. I don't know what the plan is at linebacker. It's not like you've got somebody on the roster that's going to jump in and be better than Zaire Franklin. And it's not that Zaire Franklin was great, because a lot of games he was bad. He was not great in run support. He wasn't great in one-on-one pass coverage. So, I think you had to move on from Zaire Franklin. But couldn't we have found something that would be more glamorous than a defensive lineman where we've got like 12 of them on the roster?
Yeah, that's a very Ballard move as well. Just to we'll just get a defensive lineman. We could always use another line guy, another guy on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. The Colts could possibly still lose Jones and Pierce through this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bears traded C.J. Moore,
They did.
which means now the Bears will probably be very aggressive in the free agent market going after Alec Pierce.
You know, who I've seen was interested in Pierce was the New England Patriots. So I would hate to
Really?
see him end up in New England. I would not like that at all.
I was thinking of Philadelphia
Mm, that could be interesting too. Yeah.
because I believe he was on the wasn't he on the roster the first year with Nick Sirianni?
Oh, I don't know.
I think they were together 1 year.
I'm
Somebody
just
can
having.
fact check that. I'm going to end the podcast before you get an answer, so we don't have to sit and listen to and debate whether or not I'm right.
I just.
Um,
Yeah.
but I thought there might have been 1 year where Pierce was a rookie, and so there may be some connection or knowledge of each other. I mean, obviously, Pierce didn't do a whole lot on the field his rookie year, but it's networking, right?
Right. I just had a nightmare vision of my head of the Colts losing Daniel Jones and bringing in Kyler Murray. I just had that nightmare vision in my
I
head.
saw I saw that in an article that it may be part of the Colts master plan that if they lose Jones, they can then come back and
Hmm.
oh boy.
That would
I
be.
mean, we're never and all that will mean is we're right back in the rut again.
Yep.
When you make it like we finally found our long-term franchise guy and then you just let him slide. I mean, what are the Colts going to do? I think they're going to have to match any offer. And if there's a big offer that comes in, somebody offers 40 some million, let's say, for Daniel Jones. The Colts are going to have to match that, and it may mean they have to cut a fairly significant piece of the rest of the puzzle, and the Colts may go backwards. It may be subtraction with addition. Like you bring back your quarterback, but now you just keep losing other pieces because of it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
With
got to
Jones,
wrap
it's
things
weird.
up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's weird because they brought him in and it kind of felt like an experiment and we'll see if it goes well. But it feels like they didn't really expect things to go well, and now they don't really have a
They
plan for
weren't
what.
prepared for what if it goes well.
Yeah,
Oh, it doesn't go
exactly.
well here. It doesn't go well here. We're the Colts. We've had 7 different quarterbacks the last 7 years. Don't
Oh, it
expect
did.
much.
Oh, it did go well, and he wants to be paid now for being a decent quarterback.
We
What do we
don't
do?
know what to do if our quarterback's coming back. We don't even know what to do.
Yeah, it's just
We've never
not.
had that happen before.
It's been
And we don't have
years.
Jim Irsay to tell us.
Yeah, I mean, the last time they thought the quarterback was going to come back, he retired. So they're not used to this whole sort of thing over there down in Indianapolis.
Appreciate all of you. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Share the channel if you can. Usually we are back here live on Sunday evenings. Works out as a good day in our schedule. And boy, we're gonna we're gonna be talking conference championships. We're gonna be Selection Sunday. I don't know if we want to be on during Selection Sunday. We'll have to figure out. Do we come on right after?
Yeah, that sounds.
Follow my social media. That'll be the best way to find out what we're doing next weekend. Because I'd
Yep.
kind of like to be able to talk about the brackets, maybe make some bracket picks.
Yeah, that's always fun.
We'll have to figure that out. We could, we used to have the listener bracket. I don't know if we can. We've got a way we can do that with the YouTube.
Give out a cell
Remember our
phone
listener
number.
bracket? And
Oh
then we
yeah,
got Whiskers that took every team. Do you remember that when Whiskers took every team that had a cat logo or
or
mascot?
anything that had whiskers, right?
Anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
even the what's the cowboy that had the whiskey like Oklahoma
But
State or something.
yeah,
But anyway, we're going to come back next weekend at some point because we'll have things to talk about, including the Big Ten tournament. We'll be talking high school basketball as it will be semi-state time. So please keep connected on our social media. I am at Brett Rum Sports. He is at Adam Sports Radio. And you can follow us on X. Also, make sure you subscribe. And if you click the bell, you'll get an alert when we go live. So if we do have a live show at a random time, you'll at least get the alert and know that we are on. And you can try to watch at that time, or you can always come back and watch later. All right, that does it. Thanks, my man.
see you
Everybody
later.
have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.